Good morning. Welcome to Coffee at the Cross. My name is Angelica Olson, and I'm going to be sharing my testimony with you today. I pray that the Lord will bless someone out there and help them see that the Lord has a plan for your life. So I want to start from the beginning, I guess is the best place. My mother, as I was growing up as a child, I had two sisters, and my mother was a single mother for most of my childhood. She had several different marriages, so it was hard not having a stable father figure in the home. And when I was about 15 years old, when my last stepfather had left my mother for another woman, and my sisters and I had to go to work, and we were already working, but we decided it was the best thing for us to help our mother. And so, my life kind of started rocky, not so stable, and I had to learn the hard way in some areas of my life, but it's a blessing as well because God really showed me a lot, and it made me who I am today. So I'm very grateful for it, and I wouldn't change anything that happened in my life. I moved around quite a bit as well. I'm originally from Michigan, so I moved from Michigan to Florida when I was 9, when my mother remarried. And then after that, I went to the military. I lived over here in Texas in San Antonio for 2 years, and I wasn't there for very long because I got in an accident and I broke some bones and they sent me home. It was unfortunate at the time, but that as well was a blessing looking back at it. That was not God's plan for my life. It was my plan for my life. And He's shown me that several times in my life that I had my own plan. I thought I was going to be in the military for 20 years and retire. That's what I wanted to do. But that wasn't His plan for my life. After I got back from the military, I had a boyfriend that I met in the military, and we got serious and had a child together. That also, wasn't quite my plan. I wasn't ready. I didn't feel ready to have a child yet, but no one really ever is. So I did. I had the child. Her name was Janelle Ann Marie. And 2 years later, she was with her father and had an accident in the bathtub, and she drowned. And that really changed a lot of things in my life because, again, I thought this is the plan. That's my life. I'm going to be a mother. And that was not God's plan for my life either. And at the time, I did not know the Lord. I knew He existed. I knew that there was a God, but I did not follow Jesus as my Lord and Savior. But I had several people in my life and in my family that were praying for me, and I knew that. And it wasn't until the day of my daughter's funeral, above any other day in my life, that was the most impactful day. Like, I knew that the Lord was with me. It was so gloomy outside. It was rainy. There were just clouds in the sky. And of course, I was just depressed and so sad. I could not understand what was happening in my life at the time. But in a moment, I looked up. There's this beautiful tree, like a willow tree, where my daughter is buried next to. And I looked up into the sky and literally saw the clouds part and the sun started to shine. I didn't know, I did not know the Lord like I do now, but I knew in that moment, like, He was holding on to my daughter as His child as well. But I knew that she was in the right place. And now looking back, I would have never thought that I feel the way that I do now. I'm very grateful for what the Lord, how He instructed me. He blessed me by taking my daughter home before I had a chance to ruin her life because I was leading her down the wrong path. And I did not know that then, but now I can clearly see things would not have turned out very good. She probably would have been doing the same thing I was or worse. And now God has given me a second chance in my life. In 2019, I left everything behind. The life that, again, was my plan for my life. But I started to get to know the Lord because my grandfather, who was an evangelist, he asked me one day, he said, "What are you doing with a man that you're not married to?" And I said, "Well, we're going to get married." And he said, "Are you sure about that?" I said, "Well, of course, we talk about it. We're going to have kids and, the whole spiel." And he said, "Well, you might want to reconsider, because if it hasn't happened now, it's probably not going to." So I thought about it, and I started going to church more, and I started to learn more about God's character and His love for me and His plan for my life. And I wanted to get closer and closer, but my boyfriend at the time did not. It seemed that work and money took precedence over getting to know the Lord. And I knew it was Thanksgiving of 2019, and that vacation, God opened my eyes that that was not His plan for my life, and it was time for me to take that step of faith. And so I did. As soon as we got back from our vacation with my family, I told him I was leaving. And I packed my stuff, and the next day I left. And I never went back. It was, do not get me wrong, it was hard. I was with that man on and off for 10 years. I loved him dearly, but it was not where I needed to be. And it wasn't until I took that step of faith and I walked away from everything I had worked so hard for, and I built my kingdom up. Wasn't until then that I found freedom, and now I have that second chance that God has given me with the perfect plan, His perfect plan for my life. So now I am married to a wonderful man, Michael Olson. When I met him, I didn't want anything to do with any man. I was totally, I'm married to Jesus, and that's it. I didn't want to be distracted. I just got out of a serious relationship, so I was not looking for another one. But my uncle had always encouraged me. He said, "You need to pray and ask the Lord to send you the man He has for you to be your husband." And I never did until early 2020, around January. And I prayed, and I kept praying, and I said, "Lord, if you want me to be married, I need to know. And if you don't, I need to know, which path do I need to go down? If I'm to marry some man, I need to see him. I need to meet him." And it wasn't a couple weeks later when I met Michael. And next thing you know, we're hanging out all the time because my uncle was inviting him everywhere we were going. It was his plan. He's like, "I'm going to get you two together." And I told him, I said, "I'm not interested. I don't even know the guy." But I got to know him, and it always amazes me how I look back at whenever I first met Michael, the desires that I used to have in my life before I came to Christ totally changed. And the Lord showed me, He gave me desires that I never had before. Really fulfilled that emptiness in my heart that I had, and continues to do so daily. My testimony encourages me every day when I look back and I can see God's faithfulness. All I have to do is just remember back when I thought that my life could never get any worse. God was there. Back when I didn't know Him, He was there. He always protected me, always loved me, always guided me and instructed me. Even when I didn't see it, feel it, or understand it, I can look back now and I see His faithfulness. And I pray that the Lord will also reveal to you His faithfulness in your life as well. Again, my name is Angelica Olson, and this is Coffee at the Cross. And I want to thank Marissa especially. Y'all have a blessed day.